maybe if anyone's interested, I could like make a video, like an actual video, reading a chapter of this book. I just started chapter 2. I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4 pages left. So I'll read those. Right now I'm on page 22, and that's like 2 pages into the chapter. So yeah, it's 2 pages into the chapter. So if you want to, I don't know, but I'm just gonna read, because it's okay. John said, I think this case is a screaming clown dick. The girl's name is Margaret, no. They call her Maggie. Parents are Ted and Loretta. Loretta Lee from The Mighty? She went missing a few hours ago. I handed the photo back to John and said, that's all the time it took the cops to decide it was Dave and John territory. The detective said, how many bites do you have to take out of a shit sandwich before you figure out it's shit? Follow me and wipe your shoes. The house's interior was as depressing as the magazines as a Lutramet. It looked like maybe they just moved into it a couple of weeks ago. Like they'd been there long enough to get out chairs and a sofa in the right spots, but hadn't hung any pictures or otherwise decorated. The place just seemed lifeless. The father of the missing girl was a tiny little guy, just a mighty blonde beard. Kind of seemed like a character out of a fantasy novel to me. He had a tattoo in his right bicep and looked like he was from the military unit. A skull in front of an ace and spades. Probably no more than 5 years older than John, and I but with a lot more miles on him. I figured there had been a tour in Iraq of Antagonism, what? Or both, and it looked like he returned to a job of manual labor. He was on the sofa, rough hands clenched between his thighs, one knee bouncing, a caged animal. Seemed like the kind of guy who had a whole detailed routine for how to make up with his wife after he got rough. Excuse me? Ted No looked me over. What I was wearing could be described of the opposite of a tuxedo. He said, you're the guy? You look like a bag of smashed asshole. Thank you for the feedback. So, it's been explained to you who we are. I asked for you. If it was up to me, cops wouldn't be here at all. Okay, sure. So what's going to happen is I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and it's not going to be all clear why I'm asking them. Some of them will be random or even cruel. All I ask is that you simply answer those as best as you can and don't interrupt to ask me why I'm asking. If you don't know the answer, just say you don't know, okay? He nodded. Is Maggie's mother here? I'd prefer to not have to go through this twice. She doesn't live here. We separated. She don't know I'm talking to you, and we're gonna keep it that way. Ah, alright. When did you notice your daughter was missing? Got up in the middle of the night. Don't know why. Happened to walk past the room and saw there was no lump in the blankets. Went to check. Bed was empty. No sign of Maggie anywhere. Front and back doors of the house were both closed and locked. All the windows locked too. We got an alarm system. Either they figured out how to disarm it, or they managed to not trip it. Got security cameras front and back. Looks like they went dark at around 2 a.m. Stayed off an hour. Just a black screen, like somebody knew exactly what they were doing. Like they planned it. All that aside, we're 100% sure your daughter's not hiding in a closet, anything like that. We're not going to find her in the attic or crawl space or garage, under a bed, in the kitchen cabinet. I've torn this place apart. She ain't here. In the days, night leading up to this, did you have any strange dreams? No. Did you see any shadow figures, like maybe out of the corner of your eye, but when you turned to look, nobody was there? No. Do you ever have memories of events that never happened? A presidential election that turned out differently than the newspapers say? A famous person you sure was dead turning out to be alive? No, I'm not crazy if that's what you're getting at. Did you see anything else unusual leading up to Magnie's disappearance? 5 days ago, a man named Nymph, showed up and said he was going to abduct her soon. Your answer's right there. John and I exchanged a look. John said, I think that might be our first lead. Well, duh. To Ted, I said, did he call the cops after that? I did not. He must not love his child. Because you don't think that was the most local deviant, or else you wouldn't have asked for us. Also, don't get much use from cops. Tell us about that encounter from the start. It was last Sunday after church. I was in the driveway putting in the alternator on the Impala. Guy walks up, dainty little guy. Looks like a fag or a child molester. Got this limpsy little voice, holding a cigarette between his thumb and his index finger, like you'd hold a joint. Made this little duck face every time he took a puff. I wanted to punch him before he even said a word. Came mincing up the driveway. I didn't even see a car pull up or anything. He was just there. Maggie was in the yard with me, chasing the cat around. The guy comes up and says his name is Mr. Nymph. Actually referred to himself as Mr. Wait, say that last name again? Nymph, like short for nymphomaniac or something. That's how I heard it. Anyway, it wasn't a name we'd run across before. Ted continued. So he looks over at Magnie. He's got this leering look, that says, I have a beautiful daughter. Starts asking me a bunch of weird questions about her. Then he says, what kind of questions? Started out random things. How much does she weigh? Do we let her eat meat? I'm not answering of these, he asked. I'm just asking who he is. What does he want? Why does he keep... But he just keeps up with the questions. And they just get creepier as they go. Does she shower or take baths? Do my wife and I allow her to see us naked? Do we let her shop on her own for her own underwear? Like he was trying to get you agitated then. Guess so, yeah. Told him to get off our property. He said he was just asking questions. I tell him he's got 5 seconds to get off my driveway. Tell him that he's threatening my child as far as I'm concerned. I say that in the state I have grounds to kill him where he stands. Based on that alone, finally he says, and he's saying it like he's shopping for a car, he says, I'll take her. Says he'll be back in a few days to pick her up. I take a step toward the guy, big wrench in my hand. Then I turn to check on Magnie real quick. Just a split second, then I turn back to Nymph and he was gone? Finished John. Ted nodded. I asked Maggie if she saw where the guy went. She said she didn't see nothing. Said she saw me standing in the driveway alone, yelling at nobody. By the next day, I was doubting myself. John said, you thought it was a hallucination? Ted shrugged. Came back from Iraq. Had the PTSD. Dreams mostly. Figured, I don't know. Also, done some substances in my life before Maggie was born, but I've heard about how that stuff stays in your system. I guess I wanted it to be that and not this other thing. The shit that they say goes on in this town, the reason everybody moved away, the reason I get this house for 15 grand, I had always figured it was all panic and superstition. I've seen plenty of women and little kids torn to pieces, and the culprit wasn't no monster. Men do it just fine. Reading that again. I've seen plenty of women and little kids get torn into pieces, and the culprit wasn't no monster. Men do it just fine. I'm putting this in my quote as my in my bio. I'm doing it. I said, so what exactly are you willing to believe? I believe in results. I believe in technique. What you two do, either it works or it don't. If it don't, I'll find somebody else. I said, the way I try to explain it to people is this. You look outside in the daytime and there's the sun. If there, everybody agrees it's there, everybody knows what it is. But what you don't realize is the sun is also really loud. It's a giant ball of nuclear explosions. Have you ever been really close to the lightning strike? You know that clap of thunder that's so loud that it almost makes you piss your pants? Imagine hearing something that loud, non-stop, day and night. That's how loud the sun would be. Even from 100 million miles away, about 120 decibels. The only reason you can't hear it is because your ears aren't equipped to. There's no air and space to carry the sound waves. Do you understand? This universe is full of huge, powerful, noisy things that you can't perceive the right way. Due to how your sense organs are built, John and I, our sensors are a little different than yours. That's all. John said, it's kind of like how you can't hear that your pet goldfish is just constantly screaming, but other fishes can. Now, this particular guy, Nymph, or whatever his name is, he's not in our database. No, we do not have a database. But everything's a mystery until it's not. This looks like what we call a locked room abduction. Victim missing with no sign of entry or exit. We've seen a few of them before. Ted said, if you don't mind me asking, how many of those times have you found the victim alive? More than you think, answered John. The answer is 1, by the way. When they say the things that happen around here are beyond understandings, that's not always a bad thing. Sometimes weirdness occurs and everybody is perfectly fine afterward. Maggie could just turn in her bedroom again 5 minutes from now. Is that what you think will happen here? Before John could even answer, I said, we don't think anything right now. We've been at this for a while, and here's what we've learned. However, you think it's going to go, it's not how it's going to go. About here is where I usually tell people not to get their hopes up, but I don't think I need to say that. You know what the world is like. So instead, I'm just going to say that we'll do our best. Ted nodded. Part of the job is that guy, Nymph, or is whoever he is. Find him and destroy him. Alpha Mike Foxtrot. John said, you can take that to the fucking bank. The detective held out his hand and said, guys, I'm standing right here. Ted said, so if this is what we think it is, where do we start looking? I thought, good question. John said, the fact that he came to you in advance is important. He could have just snatched her in the night, presumably, but there's a game being played here. So that means there's a good chance we'll hear from Nymph, or someone like him, very soon. At the point, we try and figure out exactly what game he's playing, and then I finish for him. We don't fucking play it. Ted nodded. We seemed to have gained more confidence from the conversation, which meant we had done a good job of concealing the fact that we had no idea what the hell we were doing. The detective looked at his watch, nodded, and said, well, it looks like you guys have it handled. He turned and strode down the hallway and out the front door. I hurried after him. Hey, you're not walking away after this. Wait! He stopped to open the door of the SUV. I put a hand on it to keep it closed, and he gave me a look like I was a mosquito he was about to splatter. Where are you going? Oh, I have to call the feds, of course. We'll have to team from the FBI here in half an hour. They'll work with the local task force, a dozen of our finest men. He knocked my hand aside and ducked into the passenger seat. He slammed the door and the other cop started the engine. I knocked on the window and he rolled it down. I asked, wait, was that sarcasm? What do you think? I'll see you boys later, or not. Who knows? I'm going back to the station. You can't just walk away from a missing child. Watch us. You think this is my first day on the job? You think this is my first day in this town? You heard the story. Even if we don't exactly know what's going on, we know enough. If they took her, I could hear the capital T in his voice. Then, it's like trying to rescue an orange after it's been juiced. Not my monkeys, not my circus. It literally is. This is your job. His shoulders slumped. He let out a tired sigh. You're right. Here, let me just give you something. It might help. He stuck his right hand inside his jacket, then pulled it out to reveal he had his middle finger extended. He stuck his hand out of the window and sped off down the street, singing, "Fuck you." They freaking... I watched the SUV's taillights dissolve behind a gray curtain of rain. I could have called the guy's superiors to complain, but the chief would just say the same thing, only louder. You might be wondering if the they he was referring to is the same they who showed up at John's place a few weeks ago. The truth is, nobody knows. Lurking behind everything are these walking shadows who can manipulate a human soul as easily as a finger puppet is manipulated by a drunk mime's penis. Here in our world, there are people who do their bidding willingly, others who do it unwillingly, and still others who serve their purposes without even knowing they exist. So yeah, I admit, probably does make it hard to fill out an arrest warrant. I sighed and made my way back inside. As soon as I arrived back in the living room, Ted said, "Though he never leave, so we're gonna hear from Nymph. When do you think his cell phone rang?" That's it. The next part is Joy Park. If you want me to read it. Not in this video, so that's too damn bad. Oh, wait. I kind of do want to read it. So actually, I am going to read it. Just this page, though. Ted's ringtone was Flight of the Calcarees. What? He answered, and immediately his expression made it clear who it was on the other end. Not Mr. Nymph, but his little girl. He squeezed his eyes shut and said, "Oh, thank God." "Shh, listen, baby, where are you?" A pause. "What? Hey, tell me where you are." John muttered. "Put on speaker." Ted tapped his phone, and I heard the tiny voice of a little girl. In mid-sentence. "We saw Prince Blacktail, and we took a picture of him and Betty, the bear, and I ate chocolate pickle on a stick." Ted says, "Maggie, where are you? Who are you with? Do you want to talk to Daddy?" "I'm here. This is me. We're home. Where are you?" "I can hear the people are really loud. It's really crowded. We're in line for a night wheel." Ted looked at us. None of us had any idea what that meant. John said, "Hi, I'm a friend of your dad's. Are you at the park? Like an amusement park? Tell us where you are, and we'll come join you." We're at Joy Park. It was a surprise from my fly box. It was word salad. Ted closed his eyes. I imagined the rage and frustration turning in his brain, sputtering pot of chili. "Honey, can you hear me? Do you know where the town you're in? Or do you remember how long you drove to get there? Did you want to talk to Daddy?" "Hold on. No, honey, are you still there?" There was a pause, some faint voices on the other end. Finally, a male voice comes in the line and said, "This is Ted. Who's this?" Ted, the one who's sitting in the room with us, looked at his phone and looked at us. We had no suggestions. "Who are you, you son of a bitch?" "Bring back my daughter." From the phone, a man with a very similar voice said, "What?" "I ain't got no daughter, dude." A faint female voice could be heard asking a question, and the man's phone replied to her, "No idea. Somebody just dialed on accident." The call disconnected. Ted stood bolt upright off the sofa, looked at me, and said, "What the fuck was that?" Another good question. John said, "Try and call her back." He did, and shook his hand. They turned it off. John was quickly scrolling through something on his phone. He said, "I tried doing a search of Joy Park. I didn't find a place by its name. Not within driving distance. Lots of, people." I said, "Maybe we heard her wrong." "Even so, what place like that would be open before dawn?" Ted said. "That sounded like me on the phone. And if in the background, that was Loretta." "What is this?" John said to Ted. "Keep in mind, again, the phone was placed for a reason. What you were allowed to hear, somebody did that to get you to react in certain ways. Regardless of who or what is behind this, never lose sight of what we had said a minute ago. What's happening here is a game." Okay. This book is peak. It's also a bad book, but that's okay. Anyways, bye guys.